I appreciate this opportunity to tell you the work of Family Promise. It's about surrounding homeless families with people who care and helping them achieve sustainable independence. And that is very, very important. Our work started right here in Union County in 1986, and it's expanded to include 182 affiliates across the country. You know, I can remember when homelessness wasn't even in the vocabulary. Maybe some of you can recall that too. It just didn't exist. Today, 3.5 million people will be homeless over the course of the year. Some are the chronically homeless. We see them on the city streets. Often they have mental illness or substance abuse issues. But others who are homeless, we really don't see because they're in our communities and they blend with us. But you know, we really do see them because they check out our groceries at the supermarket. They hand us our orders at fast food restaurants. They park our cars. They take care of our aging parents. They are part of our community. They are working poor families. And it doesn't take much to trigger a slide into homelessness for them. A job loss, divorce, an illness, or maybe it's just their mechanic saying, "You've got to replace your transmission." For low-income families, that can mean they become homeless. Families are the fastest growing segment of the homeless population. Today, 1 in every 4 homeless people in the U.S. are children, and the consequences are tragic. Homeless kids are far more likely to be sick than other kids, to develop emotional problems, to do poorly in school. They're also more likely to be bullied or teased about their situation. If one child is homeless, that's one too many. But last year, our school systems reported 1,065,000 students were homeless. And if you're a parent with children and you become homeless, your situation is dire. Without a roof over your head, you will face constant dread, anxiety, and fear. Fear? You may be a good parent, but fear that your kids will be taken from you and placed in foster care. That just should not be. But you see, during the day you try to blend in, and at night you avoid notice by driving your car behind a shopping center, or maybe your church just to feel that comfort, or where you last lived in your apartment building. Or maybe you spend time in a 24-hour Walmart just to stay warm. But then what do you do? What do you do when your child says to you, "Mommy, Mommy, when are we going to go home?" Homelessness tears families apart. That's why I started Family Promise. Last month, I met a New Jersey mom. Her name is Lisa, and she's been a long-time technician for T-Mobile. Her husband's disabled, and he takes care of the kids. The trouble started when Lisa was laid off from her job. Well, of course, she lived with her mom, but her mom lived in public housing. But her mom loved her. She loved her mom and loved her grandchildren. But the landlord evicted them for overcrowding. All of them, the whole family. Then they pulled resources, and they stayed in a motel for a while. But then the money began to run out. And she told me she called social services, and they couldn't help. But they mistakenly gave her some really bad advice because they told her to call DIFUS. With the money out and in the motel, she said, "I called DIFUS thinking, Karen, they were going to help me." But they sent a caseworker to the motel. And there I was with my daughter, Sarah, and the caseworker said, "Where are you going tomorrow?" And she said, I don't know, I don't have a place. Well, if you don't have a verifiable place tomorrow, we're coming back at 11 o'clock when you check out, and your daughter will be taken away. Immediately, Sarah burst into tears. Mommy, am I going to be taken away? This shouldn't happen. Lisa said she stayed up all night that night looking for support. Stayed on her computer till 5 o'clock in the morning. Finally, she found a referral to Family Promise. She called her director, Jolene, in Hunterdon County. It was nearly 11 o'clock, and Lisa told her story. And like many of our directors across the country, Jolene listened and said, I will help you. Don't worry. It's because of people like Lisa I founded Family Promise. Their stories don't get old to me. I can tell you today, after more than 25 years, I don't get it today any more than I did when I started. I just don't get it. As Carrie mentioned, my involvement began by giving a sandwich in New York City to a homeless woman. That led to more sandwiches with friends and some volunteers going into New York City and with my 2 sons. But then I got a little closer to home and I began volunteering in Union County, wondering were there homeless people there? And yes, I saw and talked to homeless people, and shelters were full. So I was determined to create a shelter for homeless families. I desperately tried to find a building that could be renovated. No one wanted a shelter in the backyard. So I turned to the religious community. Would they help? Did they want to help? And we came up with a plan. And that was that not one congregation could be a full-time shelter, but if 12 congregations worked together, maybe they could do together what they couldn't do alone. So 12 came forward, agreeing to provide hospitality in their buildings for a week at a time, in rotation with each other. The Y provided a space for families during the day. Social service agencies referred families. Autoland provided a discount for a van for transportation. And to my surprise, and it's a secret of our success, and I look at all of you, and it's confirmed, hundreds and thousands of people are just yearning to make a difference. Homeless families may have a need, but somewhere in our gut, in our heart, we have a need to touch life. And that's what we've been able to do so well at Family Promise. Tap the compassionate spirit of America, which is alive and well in this room this morning. What does Family Promise mean for families? They talk about the home-cooked meals. They talk about the home-like accommodations and classrooms. They talk about that they can be safe together as a family, that they can be secure. But most of all, they talk about the volunteers that don't have to be there, but are there because they care. About the volunteers that treat them like family. The volunteers that believe in them and support them. They talk about Family Promise as a loving community. So what are the benefits to our approach? One, as I mentioned, we keep families together. Most shelters split families up, with dads and boys over the age of 12 going to one shelter and moms and kids going to another. And we also focus on solving a family's homelessness. Last year, close to 80% of the families we served found housing in just 9 weeks, which is a remarkable success rate. And we do a lot with a little, because we mobilize existing community resources, churches and synagogues and mosques and volunteers and donated food and furniture and so much more. For every $1 that's invested in our programs, another $3 is returned in donated goods and services. And we're also a catalyst for other initiatives, because as volunteers work with families, they see needs close up. Close to 800 community initiatives have been created, from transitional housing to the renovation of housing. Our affiliates operate now close to 700 units of affordable housing. Financial literacy, mentoring, and more. Why? Because people got involved locally. They got involved in their own congregation. They met people they never would have met. Those people touched their heart. They were motivated to use their talents and create additional community initiatives. That's why I believe so much in Family Promise. Homelessness is not going to be solved by our government. It's not going to be solved by corporations. It's going to be solved by us as we work locally to seek solutions and invite government to join us. Now let me tell you a little bit about our work nationally. When I say 182 affiliates, maybe you're thinking of a big building and you're thinking of 200 people on staff. No, think Summit's Old Town Hall, which is a wonderful home to us, and think about 14 amazing, dedicated people who work for Family Promise at our national office, not because it's a job, but because their heart is broken about family homelessness and want to make a difference. And then 6 part-time people in the field who work with our affiliates all over the country. And what is our work about? It's twofold. We both help to establish affiliates, and that means we go where the need is greatest, we do our research, we mobilize core groups, we help them form a board, we help them fundraise, and we help them put together those components I just mentioned, host congregations, day centers, bands, all of that. Then they become independent affiliates, and they raise all their own money locally from congregations, foundations, corporations. But our job doesn't end there, because we are there to support our affiliates in strategic planning, fundraising, board development. Not only that, we learn from our affiliates and what they're doing well and the programs they've developed, and we share them with other affiliates nationwide. As you can imagine, the need is great. We get about 15 to 20 calls a month. Because of our limited resources, we can act on maybe 1 or 2. That's frustrating, it's challenging, because we have compassionate people all over this country, and there's a great need. We have the know-how, and we know, and we have the vision. I can tell you one thing. I'm so glad I didn't find that building more than 25 years ago for shelter. I'd like to stand up and say, I developed a grand plan to engage communities. No, I was looking for a building. Couldn't find it, so we improvised. But maybe that's part of God's plan, because in the process, we've involved 5,500 houses of worship, people who care, who touch the lives of families in need, and those families in turn touch our lives. Thank you. Thank you for being part of our work. And God bless you.